it's us trying to come to the terms that we're kind of raising our kids differently than we were raised.
Yeah.
Because what we were taught was, all right, it's Sunday, we go to church because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And you don't take communion because you're not a baptized believer yet.
Yeah.
And when you get to the age of accountability, then you can make your own decisions, but you're still gonna do what we got to do until you get out of here. But you can make your own decision. You can get baptized, and then you can be a member of the church. And since in our house, we talk about God every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the culture of our home. And I would say it's more like that Deuteronomy 6 type thing. So basically the question is we were taught this, and we don't have a script for what we're doing. So what do we tell our kids about that? Like some churches call it a confirmation type thing.
Yeah.
And like we've hung out with some Anglicans, and the teaching there is they baptize them when they're babies, and then they confirm them when they're older.
Yeah. Like the Lutherans.
And that's like a theological thing that we're going to raise them up in the Lord. And it takes care of that original sin thing, but then it also gives them that decision in life to respond to, whether because they want to. So anyway, you got any thoughts on that?
Well, I'm trying to kind of point your question down some. What are you trying to answer? What do you tell them, or what do you do, or what?
Yeah, because
well, for one thing,
it's a contrast in two ways of seeing things.
First thing we got to make sure that they understand is that we're not here to condemn anybody, and we realize that for all history of the world, people have done, the ones who want to be right, have tried to do what they think God wants them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the world's religions have taken on 1,000 different forms. And each one of these forms, each one of these, we could call them denominations or different things of what we call religious things, they all have their list of rules and regulations, don't they?
Yeah.
And each one of them says, if you'll do it like this, well, this is the way it's done. And yet they don't agree.
Right.
Now, some of them sort of just slightly disagree. Some of them are vehement about it, Some of them would murder each other over it. Some would just simply politely disagree. So it depends on how far away they are from each other. But we come down to this. What are we going to teach them? Well, we're just going to teach them what the Lord says. That's all. And, of course, if you're going to teach them Lutheran doctrine, well, then where are you going to get the Lutheran? You get from their catechism. Mm-hmm. You're going to get books on this stuff. If you're going to teach them to be a Catholic, they'll teach you how to do that. Or if you want to be a Mormon, you can do it that way, or a Church of Christ, or any of these. They all got their rule book, don't they? Mm-hmm. And so the first thing I'd say is, okay, we're not going to use any of those rule books. Where are we going to get our information from?
From the Lord and from the Scriptures.
Yeah. So we're just going to read the Scriptures to them. And, of course, it's not just reading it, but we got to really think about what is it really saying, Why did the Lord give us the Bible? What is the purpose of it?
Point to Him.
He is. The King Solomon wrote Ecclesiastes. One thing he said, there's the making of books, there's no end, and much study is just a weariness to the flesh. That's in Ecclesiastes. What do you mean by that? There's books, there's no end.
There's always, the tendrils of knowledge are going to reach out, and it's never going to finish.
So every religious group's got their books, and they want you to learn them. And of course, it can either be in a book form, or simply in some written code, or even just
unwritten,
spoken,
like it is in Church of Christ.
Or it can be like the Jews with their midrash and stuff like that. And it doesn't mean that everything they write is wrong. That's not what it necessarily says. But the problem is, what guarantee comes with any of it?
Right.
Much of it's just written on the basis of human opinions, and some of that may be right, but it's not reliable. You can't count on it. So the Lord gave us what we call the Bible, or the Scriptures, to give us something that we could look at that really tells it like it is. Now, people read that all day long and still don't get it. So how are we going to understand what's true?
The Lord got to be our teacher.
So we commit our reading and our studying and whatever we're doing to God to show us, what does this really mean? The Lord always speaks in parables. That's one thing. I didn't realize that till a few years ago, that everything's a parable, and we know what a parable is. So when we read a story or a account or anything that's in the book, first thing we're going to think is, okay, a parable has a surface meaning, but there's also a deeper meaning. So it says in the first chapter of Proverbs that if you search for truth like hidden treasure, you will find it. That's a guarantee. You want your kids to have truth. If they have truth, what else do they need?
Nothing.
That's it. But how are they going to get it? It says right there, Proverbs.
By being taught it.
No, it doesn't say it. It says if you search for it,
search
like
seeking
hidden
it,
treasure.
Yeah.
All right, how would you search for hidden treasure? You walk along looking at the sidewalk, hoping you'll find something on the sidewalk?
No.
Okay, how do you... The very word is hidden.
Yeah.
So what do you have to find anything that's hidden?
You got to dig.
You got to poke around in things. In part of the Seder, Passover Seders, they hide some matzah in between some things.
Kieferman?
Yeah. And it's kind of almost like a game they play, but it's really, if it's done correctly, the purpose of it is to teach you that the truth is not just laying on the sidewalk to pick up. You really have to dig for it. So it takes a little time, a little effort, a willingness to really lay aside other things and just say, I'm going to find out what this parable really says. A lot of people, we go to church every Sunday and we sit in the third pew and the preacher gets up and lays his sermon on us and we all shake hands and go home. That's it for that week. We go to prayer meeting on Wednesday night too, where we rattle off some prayers. And I'm not trying to knock people. I think many people do that really mean well. But isn't it like they're digging for hidden treasure? If I told a friend of mine just the other day, I said, if you got news somehow that it was believed that right in your backyard, some pioneers 200 years ago buried a trunk full of gold coins, and it's in your backyard. And so one day you decide,
Call
I'm
the
going to
gas
see
company.
you go out and you dig a little bit, and bang, lo and behold, you come up with a couple of gold coins.
Yeah.
What are you going to do then?
Dig harder.
Find another coin. Now what are you going to do?
Keep digging.
When are you going to quit digging?
When the yard is a big canyon.
It looks like the Grand Canyon but that's because you're digging for hid treasure. But when people go sit in a pew and listen to a guy yak for half an hour and then they go home, how much digging did they do?
I don't know.
They didn't even get their clothes mussed up. In fact, they wear their Sunday best. Why do they wear the Sunday best? Because they don't want to get dirty.
Yeah.
But if you're digging for hidden treasure, you're going to get dirty.
Yeah.
Your hands are going to get blistered. You're going to get blood on your hands. You're going to be a mess. But why would you do it?
Because you want it.
You want what that is. So the bottom comes out of this. How are we going to want that treasure? It says right exactly how to do that. One of the writings says, taste and see that the Lord is good.
Taste it just a little bit.
Well, what does that mean?
Means you're poking around in different places and, look, I found something.
Yeah.
Try it out.
You know, it comes down to this. You want to teach your kids. What makes them believe anything? They hear, if they go to a school, they hear other kids telling, they hear school teachers telling them stuff. If they go on to college, the college students, they have their big deals, and the professors their stuff, and they got the codes of the school that they go to and all kinds of stuff. They got their politics, they got their everything. What makes them believe whatever it is that they're going to put themselves into?
They make choices.
On what makes them make a choice? What on what basis?
What they know.
Okay. And largely all our choices are made on past experience, aren't they?
Yeah.
We say, I found out that if you do it this way, it works better than if you do it that way.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do it this way, at least for now. Or if they say, that guy is such a delight to be around, I want to know what he knows. Why is this guy such a delight to be around? The other guy's a thug, you know. And so we go a lot by what we see, what the results are. So when he says, taste and see that the Lord's good, if you saw a piece of cake in a box, how are you going to know whether it's any good or not?
Tasting it.
And if you really like what you got, then what are you going to do?
You're gonna...
I want a big chunk of that, you know, and I had that was good, how about some more? But if you don't like it, why, okay, thank you very much, but no thanks. So he says, taste and see the Lord. Well, what do you mean by taste? What do you do?
Gotta pick some of it up and try.
Yeah. So what your kids believe is largely what they see you believe. Now, if they see all you do is complain and whine and cry and crabby all the time about everything and picking fault with every little thing, are they going to want to be like that? Probably they'll resent
you. They will be for a while.
They will, because that's the way it works.
Pick up. Yeah.
But they'll blame you for the problems if they do. On the other hand, if they see that you are enjoying what you're learning and that it tastes good to you and you want more of it, and when you do learn something, you say, let me show you about this one here, and take a bite of this stuff, see what you think, you know. And you really think about it, God doesn't try to make you believe anything. He just shows you stuff that's good. And he says, taste it, here, take a bite of this. What if you don't want to?
Then you don't have to.
You don't have to. And I'm sorry, but there are millions of people who wouldn't give it the time of day, even though it's right in front of them. Here the world is just falling apart. People desperately need the truth. And what do they go for? Instead of going to the truth, they go to their political systems, or they go to their religious systems, or to their education, or they watch football games or anything to just somehow try to fill in the blanks. And none of it works. It's all just a failure. So more and more problems develop. It gets worse and worse and worse. And it seems like I remember years and years ago, and we made so many terrible, terrible mistakes. I did so many things I wish I could change. But we did have a habit in the old days when the kids were young. They were all going to school. And before they went to school every morning, we'd have a breakfast and we would read a little bit out of the Bible, and we would just pray, a short prayer. And sometimes the neighbor kids down the street would come up. They'd walk up to the school bus together. And sometimes the other kids would get there, a couple of them, and get there a little early, and they'd come in and sit with us. And I remember one of those other kids said at one time, "I wish my dad would teach things like that to us." That's what he said. Something like that. Yeah. And I don't know whatever became of that, but why did he say that?
He tasted it.
And he took a taste, and it was
he said, "This
probably
is good."
what he got at home was reprimands and or any other thing, who knows what. People telling him they're no good, or, if you don't do this, you're going to be in trouble or something. Just nothing that lift them up or encourage. So my guess is that your question goes back to, how do you get the kids to see it? Well, first of all, they better see it in you, that you really care about those things, and when you do find something especially good, what's the matter with telling them about it, and they are going to hear things that they probably wouldn't get anywhere else. And many folks will go to a regular church meeting. My son Dale said, "How come you don't go to a regular church?" He told me that. How come you don't go to a regular church? What's a regular church? Well, I know what a regular church is. It's the typical theater-style setup with the show up front and the audience out here. And there's where you do with your money when you come. And the guy up front will tell you, here's what songs we're going to sing, and here's what we're going to pray. And you're just there to observe. Mm-hmm. Maybe you enter in with the singing a little bit, but it's really
kind of like going to the movies.
It's just a show. And I'm sorry that I don't mean to put people down, but that's what I think of as a regular church. But and not that we always do everything so right either, but instead of just going through a ritual program, what's the matter with just seeing what these words really say? And it takes time. You can't just read a chapter a day and call that digging for treasure. You may take one word, bereshith, teach him what that means, or teach him what the letter Gimel means, or something like that. And my guess is they're not going to hear that in most places, even in the religious system. They don't teach. Most of what preachers call their sermon, and by the way, where do you see anywhere in the Bible where anyone was supposed to preach a sermon?
Acts 20.
Well, okay, what did you read in Acts 20?
Where Paul preached till midnight.
Did he tell anyone else to do that?
Until somebody falls out the window.
Do you see written where it says every church is supposed to have a preacher hired to do exactly what the Apostle Paul did?
No.
It doesn't say that. It just says he did it.
Yeah.
Okay. Philip went down in the desert, met the Ethiopian. Did he tell everybody you got to go out in the desert, meet the Ethiopians?
No.
In fact, if you read the book, did anyone ever do that again? Ever?
No.
Or that you're supposed to go to Cornelius' Roman soldier's house. When did he tell anybody to have to do that? Only one guy, Peter. He did it. Great things happen. Fine. What comes out of this, when Peter, that's part of our story for number 3, because there was 3 guys came to get Peter up there. It was a 3-day hike up to Cornelius' house. And the vision of the